Good evening.
Hello there.
And welcome to the Heroes and Generals Twitch session. I think it's number 25, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Gargamel is he's not well today.
He is filled with disease.
It's us two freaks running the show today. Yeah. I am Reto Redbjarne and this is Reto Vashu.
Yes. You might have seen me before.
He's the guy that promises a lot of stuff that I have to answer for in the show, in the next show. So this show is going to be awesome.
So I make a lot of promises and then he has to answer them. Sounds great.
Yeah, we just cut out the
middleman.
The time between. So yes. Go ahead, make some promises.
Yeah. Well,
okay. This today is going to be a bit. We're going to freestyle this show a little bit today. Well, Fred is not here, so we're probably going to talk a lot about the situation on the live servers and on the Timoshenko builds, and some tweaks we made to the assault teams, and how the wars and everything is actually progressing, and maybe a little bit about supply queues. What we are doing with them, and then obviously we have a lot of up and coming bug fixes that we would just announce that we have. They're not on the live servers yet, but we're looking into some of the more annoying issues that people have with the servers.
Yeah, we're gonna go through a lot of the. We have a bigger batch of hotfixes other than server stability that is hopefully coming out very soon, and we're gonna show you some of the nice things that we hopefully will get to you very soon. I'm gonna try and sit here and see if obviously I'm logged into to Gargamel's computer, which is completely alien territory for me. So it's bear with me. I'm gonna make some mistakes along the way. We might switch to a huge question Q and answer session today if we run out of stuff to talk about, but probably not. We can talk about all sorts of crazy stuff. But yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
So at this point, it would have been nice to go on to the live servers, but currently the disk array is being rebuilt. I'm just reading from the Twitch, the Twitter feed we have on the server status, and we're hoping it gets up so we can actually go on to the server and show you show the current situation and talk about how we've been monitoring that for a while, because it's kind of boring to just talk about something we can't really show.
Maybe should we show some of the stats, the graphs we can show. What does it say?
Okay. I just got an update from people in the office, and they said that the servers probably won't be up while the Twitch stream is running. So
damn it! Yeah. We actually wanted to show something about the great return of the Germans. It seems like for this war that the Germans, they were pushed back a lot. I think it's like 2 days ago where Robotron was laughing and said, "Oh, it's gonna be 2 hours and the Americans will win again." Ha 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 ha. He has a very evil way of laughing when he predicts stuff but that fortunately wasn't true.
No.
It seems like the Germans are really advancing now, and it seems like they were just on the brink to go on to England before we very cruelly just switched off the servers. Sorry about that.
And sadly, we can't show the status, but they had to give up Berlin. But then after a while, they actually stabilized the fronts, and then I guess the United States and the Soviet Union started battling each other instead of battling Germany, and then Germany built up and took over steadily.
Yeah, but wait, maybe we should talk about that later. Yeah. We just have some stuff that we need to run through here with the assault team tweaks that we actually put up. Can we put on the
this one?
Yeah, we just have a document here that nobody can see it when we put it onto.
So I can zoom a bit.
We're probably just gonna.
Yeah. Okay.
I think the info is already out. It was put onto the message boards, so people actually know this. But we did some just go back to the footage thing.
Show us.
Yeah, show us. We're better looking than text.
Yeah, we'll try and talk about what's on the screen, and then like you can see people instead of dry white stuff.
But I think generally we made a lot of minor tweaks to the assault teams, how fast they move and how many resources they have. And you go back to the document so I can see what I actually did. There you go.
Thank you.
Actually, we reduced the amount of resources on especially on the small teams, because they were seeming a bit too powerful. So and then we made some rules about the ratio of vehicles to men, so it aligns more probably. I think this is one of the cases where we've been tweaking some values, and at some point we just tweak some values in a certain area to fix something without the regard for the entire system. And this is sort of like a running through all the numbers and just sort of like cleaning up on the individual values. It has been. Yeah.
So if you want to see this on the forum, there is actually the news and build section, or the news section in the forum, and then the news and builds under the Timoshenko update released. In the changelog, then you there is first the massive changelog for the entire Timoshenko build, and then at the bottom there's this updates or hotfixes section, and then down there's actually the numbers that are coming soon. Which hopefully will hit the servers next week.
Yeah. But I can see generally the changes was a bit on the speed and the amount. Some people were complaining that it didn't make much sense to upgrade. For example, there wasn't enough differentiation between the guard team and the motorized team and the infantry. You basically didn't have an instanceman to actually change to an infantry unit, which you will now, because you actually get. Where you can see we get a lot more resources with the infantry than just having two guard teams, and I think that's some of the things that we're pushing a little bit more. That the larger teams actually have far more resources than the smaller teams, and the smaller teams have some advantages in speed and for some of the air units range instead. So it's
also, for example, like a motorcycle division should move faster than someone in jeeps with a lot more infantry to coordinate. So I
think the motorized guard team has motorcycles, and we put in there's two guards per motorcycle. Or is it 3? I think it actually is 3, isn't it? No, yeah, it's 3. Yeah. 3 guards, so there are 3 on a motorcycle, which means that they're slower than the recons. The motorized recon now that's a 1-to-1 ratio. So the motorized recon is by far the fastest unit you can have in the game.
Yeah. And then it's basically a lot of the changes we're doing is basically to incentivize upgrading. Yeah. If, for example, if you have a guard team and it has a decent amount of guards or infantry in it, and then you have the choice between a lot more infantry in the infantry assault team, or you can choose like the faster but smaller motorized guard team.
But also there's this thing about the because you reinforce an assault team, you have to reinforce the entire team. So there's now it makes sense to have actually both a guard team and a motorized guard, where you can use the motorized guard to, if you're on attack and you want to get moving forward, and you can actually use just the guard team or the infantry, slow moving but only men, to protect the capital, for example, or in defensive positions where the speed is not needed, because they're cheaper to reinforce and they have a better earnings ratio on war funds. So there's a bit of a thing in here where being on the offensive side is going to cost you war funds, because if you use the more expensive units, and on the defensive side you can actually just only deploy men or infantry only for defenses, and that will hopefully skew your income a bit. Actually also made some changes to the tank destroyers. We bumped up the speed of the tank destroyers, to make them faster than the medium armor. So they are sort of a little bit more reflecting the traditional role of tank destroyers as being a fast to deploy type unit. So it's
Oh yeah, there was this interesting behavior.
That was a bug. The Pathfinders, nobody apparently noticed that, but the Pathfinders were were the fastest unit we had at Pathfinder. Grounded Pathfinders was really, really fast. They moved a lot faster than the recons, but nobody seemed to notice that they could, in the start of the game, capture with those guys, and they just ground them and just keep moving.
So fly them out as far as you can, then the transport planes get sent back, and then you just start moving on ground anyway. And they would basically keep the same speed as if they were airborne.
They were just insanely fast.
Yeah, that's gonna get a fix.
They're now a little bit slower than infantry on foot. And the reasoning for them being a little bit slower is that they're paratroopers and they actually have to carry more stuff with them than the regular infantry.
So there are some questions about if we can go back. There's something about the APCs, that APCs have been reduced in the mechanized infantry.
Yeah. Also the expensive stuff, expensive APCs, and actually pretty powerful in the action game. It seems like when people know how to use them, they have a huge advantage. So it's that's the reasoning for actually reducing them. Also to lower the cost of having a mechanized infantry a bit. So it's not that expensive. It was quite expensive before. Obviously the cost of the assault teams is not the means to reduce the usage of them. It's our production ratio that will be the one that we use to adjust the availability of assault teams in the war, and that's where we can talk a little bit about the supply queues, because again I think we discussed that last time also, that the people were complaining about huge queues. Obviously we have a bit of a bottleneck situation right now with the Russians, because they have a lot of light armor, so we do make some artificial bursts of resources on the light armor front once in a while just to get the ball rolling, but in the end it should even out with more medium and heavy and tank destroyers getting fielded by the Soviets as well. The idea with this reduced production ratio is to limit some of the more effective assault teams, and to sort of like encourage strategic players and clans into basically thinking a little bit about where and how they use their assault teams before just moving them ahead, saving some of the more dangerous ones or the more powerful ones for later. For example, it'll be a lot clearer when the next update comes up with our paratroopers in the game, that they're very reduced in production.
Yeah, but also there's a reason why their production was lowered.
Yeah.
It's because they received a different change that I hope I can show in a bit. I just have to get.
But this is to move in the direction where we can see that to make an effective assault, you have to sort of like save your for example your medium and armor and heavy armor for a big push, and then just sort of like disrupt the enemy, or like maintain a front line with with infantry, for example. Obviously, you will always have the usual complaints about people saying, but noobs are just wasting my assault teams or whatever. They're wasting the resources or nothing. It's like, the only thing I can say about that is that that's just the cruel reality of war, is that it's not really, it's really, really hard to control. So there will be happening a lot of weird stuff that's out of your reach, but getting organized and working together with other players will give you an advantage, because you can then sort of like limit the waste of like the random waste of resources.
So I'm actually ready to show like the reason why paratroopers will receive a decrease in production in the future is because now you can see this is the current transport range and the current attack range of Pathfinders, and it's it's like this, and that's fair enough. And if I go, this is the same zoom level. It's a different location, but it's the same zoom level. So you will see the change. That I can move them out to Rotterdam afterwards, but there is a dramatic increase in attack range, and there is also a fairly huge increase in transport range.
Yeah.
So, for example, here I'm near Marseille, and I will actually be able to transport near Rome, and I'll be able to land on. Is that? I always forget. Is that Corsica or is that?
Yeah,
this is Corsica.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you can actually paradrop substantially.
Sardinia.
Yeah. So is this Sardinia? And this is. I always forget those names. Okay, but you can paradrop a lot longer now. So paratroopers will have a much bigger role, and I'll just relocate them to.
I have to say we had a lot of actually this is one of the things that we introduced some you could say like some fixes for some problems we had with the paratroopers before we had the limited resources. Is that people are abusing them for something they called soft capping or para blocking, but in reality, using paratroopers to block and or to make quick captures, that's actually a strategy. It's not a bug. Our problem was that it was abused, and we didn't have any real good way to stop the abuse. So we opted to reduce the ranges and make them much more expensive and stuff like that. That would just reduce the usage. But we have the possibilities now to actually turn them back into more effective paratroopers. Obviously, paratroopers should be used in conjunction with a larger attack. If you're doing a big push for a major capital, it would probably be a good idea to launch some paratroopers some time after the battle has started. And you can see that the enemy is starting to resupply their assault teams in the battle. So you'll use the paratroopers to cut off supplies behind the enemies to make sure that you will get the upper hand. Obviously, you run the risk of the enemies doing the same to you, which they probably will. And in order to not just spam the whole map with paratroopers, we will significantly lower the production of paratroopers, so they will not be readily available. They will be more like a bonus power up that you can fire off once in a while, or you can save them for later. So be careful with the paratroopers, and from the next time we make an update, this is not going to get up in the next Timoshenko. I think it's on test right now, so that's something that we're still tweaking it a little bit.
This it should hopefully come soon.
Yeah,
like we're not talking like April or something.
No, it's coming with the next batch of bug fixes.
Yeah. So this actually shows it like this is the more or less same zoom level. Now zoomed in. And like this is the previous one. This is the current one.
Check out the attack ranges. Like it doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah. So now you can actually cross.
Go back to the old attack range.
Yeah.
It's really strange that you have a transport plane that just doesn't really fly that long.
This was this. Yeah.
It made them really. Yeah, you couldn't really use them. So
you had to move to the actual front line and then hope that there was an airfield and then move. Like it was just not functioning. As it should.
But right now we can see that the general idea about between the airborne units is that the paratrooper, the transport planes have the longest range, and they have the attack range is sort of about 50% of the transport range, which means that they just perform a round trip. They fly out, drop the paratroopers, and then they fly back. Whereas the fighter planes have not as much range, because they're smaller planes. They can't carry as much. They'd rather carry ammo than fuel, obviously. So they'll have a shorter range, and the attack range is about 30, like a third of the transport range, just to sort of simulate that they fly out. They stay in the same area for a great while they use some fuel, and then they fly back. Obviously, you could argue that the way back they would probably fly on almost empty tanks, so it would be. But these are numbers that we can tweak if we feel like it. But right now, the general rule would just be that the fighter planes have a attack range which is a third of their transport range, and the transport planes have an attack range that is half of of the transport range. And the transport planes can fly longer. That's it. And I forgot the most important thing, the transport planes are quite slow now, and the fighter planes are quite fast, so they're also faster.
Yeah,
that was some of the bigger the bigger tweaks. You can read some of that on the forum.
Yeah, if you go to the news and build section under news, and then there is the change log, and you can check it out there. And also some of the teams, like the fighter squadrons, were also increased slightly in size.
I've just actually made another change to that, to make sure that there is a greater difference between the large and the small teams. So in the next update, the Paratrooper team will have 3 times as many resources as the Pathfinders, and the same goes for the recon fighters versus the fighter squadron. So there is a big reason to upgrade, is that you can carry a lot more resources, and it also puts the assault teams into 2 different roles. So it would make sense for commanders to actually have both, and not just endlessly upgrade their assault teams, because they might want to use the Pathfinders for something, and they might use the Paratroopers for just a big invasion type drop. So trying to make the assault teams a bit more useful, and not just like an upgrade tree where everybody ends up having heavy armor.
Yeah, that. So, I guess we.
And also change the speeds, actually, because some clever mind in here pointed out to me that because I adjusted the speed of the Paratroopers, that they were slower than the fastest ground unit, which is a bit odd. So the ground units
is some reckless driving.
The ground units now are about 60% of the speed of what they are on the live server, so they will be slower. Which is okay. Strategy is about thinking and not about moving fast. So get used to the thought that the strategy game is going to be a bit slower. It will give you time to plan ahead and make proper planning.
And where you also have time to build up stuff behind the lines, so that you don't have to rush all the time to fill out front line.
Yeah.
You can actually have like a semi-thin front line, and then you can build up massive reserves, and then suddenly, when the enemy is stretched to its limits, you just like pour in like this huge build-up, a real army. You pour it into these key cities. You focus the super elite action players you have into those games. You break through, and then it's just like, then it won't be the stalemate of World War I. It will be actually World War II. Also,
just moving the slower units into position of we call the bottlenecks, we would call them the choke points, but in the bottlenecks of the map, it would be a good idea to just move your non-motorized teams there. Just keep them there for when the enemy try to push through, then there's something to slow them down. That would also be a tactic that you should consider using. About the slowness of the slowing down of the units and the entire war thing is something that we deliberately do. I think some players would be complaining, now it's even slower than before and stuff like that. And you just get used to it. It is going to be slower, because one of the big problems I see with the strategy game is that the opening game, the opening part of the war, where you spread out, you try to capture your capitals, and that it has a lot of strategy in it. But most players, they don't notice it, because when you log on, the war has ended. And the opening game is already finished. You have to be online when one war ends in order to actually participate in a pretty important part of the war, which is the opening part. So slowing down the game will only make that part more interesting.
Yeah, we allow more players to see it.
Yeah.
Instead of just like, I logged on 1 hour after, done.
Yeah. I actually like following the war, but one thing I have is, as again, speed-wise, is that if you don't check the war every half an hour or something, it will have changed a lot for your next checkup on the war, which is like, makes it hard to follow. And the whole idea about running the war has always been to enable people to just sometimes during the day they can check in on the war, and then they can actually go to sleep and wake up next morning
and then France hasn't been lost.
The war just haven't completely changed, but they can sort of like follow the movement in the war, and they can start to think. They actually have time to speak together and form sort of like a strategy about what they want to do. So you probably should expect the war to move a little bit slower in the future.
And now that we're like sort of still on the topic of changes, I'm focused on a certain area on the map. If you can remove us, so we can have total focus on this. This is the current layout for Sweden and the what is it called? I've forgotten the name of this sea.
Østersøen?
Yeah, but what's that in English?
The Eastern Sea?
Yeah, really?
I don't
Eastern
know.
Sea, okay. Well, the area between Leningrad and Copenhagen.
Be aware, this area is filled with Russian subs. And Spetsnaz guys trying to land in Sweden.
Coming back to our game.
I'm just performing my duty as a drift king.
Yes. So you can see this is the current state. And this is how it
Baltic
is.
Sea, that's it.
Yes, Baltic Sea. Thanks. And
the Cookie Sea.
And we don't listen to the chat. It's dangerous. So we just we looked into this area because we want there should be more front line between in the northern part of Europe.
Point to the screen and not to
okay. So this area is very empty, and this area, like, there was only one line of attack. You could, and then you had to go down. So this was a major choke point.
Yeah.
And then it was, if you could hold on to this area, it would be, like, the front would be very boring.
Yeah, and
over a long time.
We actually wanted to encourage some more battle between the US and the Soviets.
Yes.
The Germans were having a hard time.
There's to say they were in almost all the major battles. So this is how it's going to be on this is on the internal test server, and it's part of everything we've talked about so far that's going to come in the hotfix bunch is here. So you can notice in Sweden we've connected a lot more. I can just go back and forth. This area has been connected, and the entire crossing between northern Sweden over to Finland and down again to Estonia has been changed quite a bit. And there's also a island hopping route.
There's a backdoor to Leningrad now.
Yeah, so now it's no longer you can just hold maybe 1 to 3 points. You actually have to be aware that there are multiple routes of entry, and there was also an issue where if you had planes around Leningrad, they wouldn't be able to leave Leningrad because there were no airfields nearby, and we've actually added quite a few.
Lots of airfields.
Yeah, this is hard to see, but actually there are connected airfields throughout the entire Soviet, like the eastern part of Europe, so you can fly everywhere. And also with the increased transport ranges, it would be much easier to actually have airborne combat. And also Norway, Sweden, and Denmark can now be, like, you can actually fly between all of it. Mm-hmm. And you can also go from the eastern side of Sweden, and then you can cross over into the eastern part of Europe. So it's going to be hopefully airborne units will be much more attractive, and it will be possible. And also a different thing. If I zoom out, you can see there are these major cities, and they are much more visible. So if I do the same here, like we had the problem now that we have 21 major cities. No, wait. 23 major cities.
23, yeah.
Yeah, there were so many, and it was difficult to see where they were. So we added a small visualization update, which is, as you zoom out, all the stars, all the major city stars, they become bigger and bigger. So you have like this easy overview of where the big major cities are. So when you want to deploy,
we probably should actually add the name as well in large text.
Yeah. That's a nice one for future updates. I will promise that he will have to answer when it will be added later.
I will answer that now later, in a later update.
I was told even more focus.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So this is all part of the hotfix batch.
We actually were discussing a little bit. We have been rolling back the changes we had to do to boost the Soviets in order to get them sort of kickstarted. We had some discounts on generals and assault teams, and for a week or two we had them boosted, so they actually had more resources on the assault teams, and all that stuff has been rolled back now to where it was. So it's more even and fair. It seems like the Russians were actually the Soviets were picking up pretty good, and it seems like it's more balanced now. So we rolled most of that back. We haven't done anything with the starting capitals or the starting major cities, and that is the next thing that we're gonna roll back. Is the Soviet Union right now starts with 5 capitals or 5 major cities, and that has to be reduced to the same amount of the 2 other factions. We are not sure that, because removing those will give them a huge disadvantage. So we're a little bit careful about doing that. But in the same at the same time, we started discussing a little bit if we should use the same or the opportunity to change the layout of the major cities, and we have several suggestions of what we could do. Obviously, we would prefer to somewhat. And that's just unfortunate for the Germans, but it would be a lot better if their capital was Rome instead of something much more southern. But I can see that if you can show the newspaper.
Oh yeah.
They already found out that it's a smart thing for them to actually abandon Berlin in the beginning of the war.
I'm going to switch to the. So many windows. I'm going to switch to that one.
Oh yeah, that's good.
It's a forum thread. If you search for newspaper for Axis forces on the forum, or you go to the community section and then German Army Talk, then you will actually see the first issue of the Unser Kreuz, which is a German newspaper, but it is in English, so it's slightly more accessible than if it was in
German.
Yeah, but it has a nice German accent in the way they write some of the words, which is nice. But one of the generals, Pestilence Mage, I think that's how you pronounce it when he doesn't have the T. He doesn't have pestilence.
You have to have a German accent when you pronounce it.
Yeah, but that's.
Pestilence.
Yeah, but
that's more French.
I'm
going to shut up now.
Actually, he actually had the great idea that they should just abandon Berlin and retreat to Rome. And we've been discussing it internally. Like the best solution would be that Germany didn't start with one of my suggestions were, now I have to word myself properly. If Germany didn't have Berlin, the war would be much more like a triangle. Like the America would come from the left, northwest, and Soviet Union would come from northeast, and Germany would be in the bottom. And then they would meet basically in Central Europe, and all the battlefields would the front would unite at a proper place, so that there would be an equal front line length for each faction up against the other faction. Yeah. And clearly, the community is already doing it.
We actually discussed moving a few of the major cities as well. If you go back to the test map, one thing that we are considering doing is to abandon Liverpool as a major city and moving it to Stockholm,
which would be over here.
Yeah, probably that would give a lot more battle between the Americans and the Soviets, which would relieve the Germans a bit to the south. It would still be a good solution for them to actually abandon Berlin in the beginning. I think we are not gonna do it like it's as a setup where Berlin is not the capital, because people will just be super confused that it's not the starting capital.
Yeah, it is the capital of Germany. So
we also actually discussed a little bit about just only starting up with London, Berlin, and Moscow in sort of like the extreme setup, and then just have players figure out how they would play it. It would obviously be a long way for US to actually get to Scandinavia. So Germany would, but Germany they would have to figure out: do we want to go north or south or both, or what do we do? So
they would stretch them like they would be in between two fronts
it's
all along.
I think it's worth trying at some point just to say next war we're going to run with this setup for a while and see how it goes.
Also, if we add a major city in Sweden, like we would also add battlefields around it. It wouldn't just be this density. It would be a much more
fill it out with more battlefields.
Much more dense.
We also discussed the Rybinsk.
This fantastic.
This has actually been added as a major city to the Soviets, just in order for us to have somewhere where the Soviets could retreat and camp, if you could say it like that. We were just unsure of how the war would play out in the beginning, so we made some setups that we thought would be good, but. We could move that to Belgrade instead, which would be in Central Europe down here.
Yeah, so it would be in this area. So this would also like push the focus of the German army or the German generals down, because there would be like more to go for.
Yeah.
And then if the Soviet Union started in Moscow, they would be more interested in going south as well.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to like capture their spending time on going backwards.
Yeah.
Where they would actually like have a lot more incentive to fight for this area, and we would again fill out. Now I'm pointing at a screen with a hand. We would fill out this area with more more battlefields to accompany a major city. So there would be a bigger front line again.
Actually, already we added some more battlefields down there. In that area to fill it up. I think with the update we actually didn't add much in the old.
This area is
in the old Yugoslavian countries, but we're starting to fill in that area, and that's because that area was part of the Rommel setup, where you had to have a backdoor to Italy down there. So we are slowly filling in areas of interest with more battlefields, so you can actually expect us to add more battlefields in the future as well. But it's interesting to see how the war actually plays out, and it's cool to see that you guys make comments on and suggestions to how the whole design of the campaign map is. Because we are thinking a lot about that. Obviously, we would like to get to a point where the wars are longer, but the winning is done by clever tactics or clever strategy rather than just producing a lot of assault teams.
Yeah. It has been very interesting to see like all the reductions we did. How like tactics have actually changed, and we've seen that there has been a rise of alternative units being brought into action, because it took so much time to get infantry, so you had to focus on other types of units, and a lot of the battles that you play in the war are actually very different now, because it's no longer 500 infantry versus 500 infantry. It could be 60 infantry versus 200 infantry, and then it's like then you on the underdog team, you're more focused on, if we can just kill off 100 of their infantry, we might have lost this battlefield, but our generals will have a much like everyone else will have a much easier time on the next battlefield, because the enemy has lost a lot, that they can't just like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna wait 5 minutes, then I get all my reinforcements. Okay, sure, full team again. Yeah. Like now they actually have to, can I actually attack? Because we've seen a lot of the front line where they actually haven't been battling each other, even though they had cities like connected. Yeah, because exactly. There has been pockets where they simply couldn't move new units in.
It's interesting to see that we suddenly start to get like holes in the front lines, which is awesome.
It's completely different.
So and again, to answer, we do get some flack for not being able to resupply everybody all the time. And that's simply just not the part of the war. The part of the war is to actually have a limit on your resources in order to force players to spending them more cleverly than just. Otherwise, it would just be a numbers game, and we could actually just abandon the entire thought of having a strategic game, because it wouldn't make sense. It would just be button clicking and who can press the button fastest, and that's just not what we want to do with strategy.
So this I wanted to show like what we did in the ex-Yugoslavian countries. It's because there are so many, and I don't want to get into details, but there have been added quite a few. Actually, this hotfix update that's going to come is adding roughly 200 more battlefields to the war, spread all over mostly Eastern Europe, but also in Scandinavia.
Yeah. No, actually, we another thing is that you should be aware. We started to remove a few of the supply line connections in Western Europe, up in Germany and Holland and all those areas, in order to give it a little bit more of a choke point feel, where there's more bottlenecks. The big rivers are going to be cleared out, so it's not just like a massive front line, but it's actually have a bit more of the pocket fields that you will have on the eastern front. I think that creates a more interesting strategic play, because you can find the bottlenecks and start to lock those down, rather than just having to maintain a huge front line. What are we getting here?
It's questions that we will look into later. Those questions, a lot of the questions are difficult to answer, because they are. It's very specific technical solutions. For me, there's a difference between like game design, which Red Bjarne will answer indefinitely, and then there are like the current state of the game, and of course we will just say it should be fixed in the future. But there are people who own these systems, and they might also want to have a part of the discussion. But I will get back to those questions, and we will see what the answers will be. Do we have? Oh yeah, a lot of players were slightly confused about the weapon upgrade modification system when we launched Timoshenko. We changed some things in it, and in the hotfixes we also have. Now I just need to find yes. In the hotfixes we also have a temporary solution until we can actually make a system that is easier for people to understand.
Yeah, I think this change was one of those changes where we had to do, where we actually wanted to do a lot of changes on the back end, on the database structure for the weapon mods and the weapons and how they use ammunition and all the stuff. So it's quite a big back end change, and we didn't quite get the perfect solution for the UI front end.
No.
So we are going to do another pass on the front end part of the new weapon mod system, also to align it with the vehicle part. So those two systems are identical in their use.
Yeah. So if you understand how to upgrade your weapon, you should also completely understand how to upgrade a vehicle. Yeah. For example, I have this fantastic.
Your blah blah blah.
Yeah, my fantastic.
Is that the sound when it shoots? Blah 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 blah.
Exactly.
Blah 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 blah.
Exactly. So if I go, let's see how it is on the. Let me just get through all my generals. So this is how it looks on in the current state of the game, and we're not extremely happy with this window, and we're only slightly more happy with the new window that we made, but we want to make this even less confusing.
Slightly
less
unhappy.
Yes. We're going towards a place where we are happy with things. This is just a step, and hopefully we'll address it as soon as we can.
Yeah.
But a lot of people were confused about how do I upgrade my weapon, and
the whole thought about the initial design where we would like to go towards was that should be able to access the upgrade screen directly from the front screen, and unfortunately you ended up with another step in between, which was not good.
So in the hotfix patch, wrong. There we go. So this one has gotten a lot more buttons, which is not always a great thing. But now you can actually handle when you have found out how to upgrade your weapon by clicking this button, then if you have upgrades on it, you can toggle between, like my weapon is perfect. So if I don't want to repair upgrades, they just the price is 0, and you can't repair it. If you want to repair it, you should see the price for all the upgrades. This is not ammunition. This is only upgrades. So it's a barrel, trigger, scope if there is a scope, all that stuff.
Maybe I should actually just talk a little bit about the reasoning for us to put in the weapon wear and the cost of the ammunition.
Ooh, hot topic.
I know it's a hot topic, but it's something that we felt that we had to put into the game in order to facilitate captured weapons and the introduction of far more powerful weapons. That's the only way we can, I'd say, safely introduce for example, the Sturmgewehr and some of the more crazy ass weapons that people have been screaming about. We need a way to actually adjust this so it's not completely overpowering the game, because it will be balanced a little bit more out when you have access to the opposing side's weapons. Also, it will be very interesting for some players to actually have the captured weapons. We just need a way to make them to nerf them a lot, actually. So if an American tank commander would like to have a Sturmgewehr, he will not be able to repair it. He will not be able to mod it, and it might be like 80% damage when he buys it. So it's something that's special, and he has to use it cautiously. So that's one of the major reasons for doing this system. It's exactly the same system as has always been working on the vehicles. So it's actually just the same thing.
And I think hopefully a lot of people have noticed that if you use like a regular gun, you won't even feel like the expenses. They are...
No, we up the expense of the bullets and repairing your gun should be, from the statistics that we can pull out, we can see it should in average cost you, what is it, like 27 credits per battle for an average player.
Yeah. And that is
for Garand, for example. And we upped the
income.
Yeah, we upped the credit income to about 50. So it should be players. You actually get more out of it. And if you obviously you're a good player who makes every shot count, then it should be even better. So but I'm probably going to say this for the next few sessions as well. Just keep saying it, because it's definitely not something we're doing to just greedy developers trying to get all the money. It's a system that we feel that we would like to introduce in order to have people think a little bit more about what they use and how they use it.
Yeah,
it's the same thing as one thing that we would like to introduce at some point in the future is the ability to switch between different ammo types for your gun in game. So you could actually have your sniper ammunition and your factory ammunition, and when you meet like a hard opponent, you switch your ammunition to the more expensive one, and for regular fighting you just use your factory ammunition. So you can mix and match a bit more. The same goes for the vehicles, adding more ammunition compartments, so you can do a more clever loadout of your ammunitions. Is something that we would like to introduce, obviously. But we just need to have the basic system in place in order to do those things.
So to finish off this one, so I think we have to almost move on to some questions, and we have some small things.
We have some. Now you could just run through the bug fixes.
You have the ability to auto repair upgrades, and it's all the upgrades. Still not ammunition, but you can auto repair all the upgrades now from this window. And in a future build, we're gonna probably change this again to a more streamlined and more in line with the vehicles part, because the vehicles part doesn't work at all like this. Which we will fix. So this is coming, and then there's also been some issues with ribbon booster timings. If people saw, I bought a ribbon booster, it was supposed to last for 4 hours. It says it's only 3 hours or 2 hours or it's 10 hours. And that is because we used, before this fix, we used your local time. And if you set your local time wrongly, we would show it wrongly. And now we're using a server time So the ribbon booster time will always be the right one. And this has also changed for the wartime and the battle setup time. And there was another fix. Now I'm just going through them fast so we can get to questions. There was the fix with...
we can go... Can we go overtime today, or do we have a hard deadline?
Yes.
Okay. We can go... Okay, fine.
Yeah, okay. Slow down. I was in like, yeah, we're gonna do this. I have 2 minutes. Okay. A lot of people were saying the mission was ending. In the mission details, when you press the mission that was being set up, it said the mission is already ending, and that bug has also been fixed, which is a small one, but I think it's worth saying that we fixed it.
Yeah.
And army channels in the chat will now be they will actually be mandatory. There was a bug that all of them, they had lost their like you could leave their army chat. We don't want you to leave your army chat, so they're going to be mandatory again. And
one question: does that come? Is that when you have picked?
Yes,
your war?
You only join. Yeah. No, you join the server or the war, and then you don't have an army chat. Then when you go into, if you press generals, or if you press enter a war mission, battle, then you have to choose a faction, and then you join your army chat, and they are going to be mandatory. And oh yeah, we have. There were some issues with fighter pilots not being in missions with armor, and the other way, like fighter pilot missions were kind of only against infantry with no high value targets. There's also going to be a fix for that in stage battles, so that there will be fighter squadrons or fighter recon in various setups. They will show up everywhere, but not in all missions. There will still be a lot of mission setups, battle setups that are without fighter, like bombers or planes bombing everyone to smithereens. And we have some questions from the chat. Let me see. CDR Keen, he's asking why can't we shoot while we ride in vehicles?
Oh, that's
it makes no sense. You're better off walking and not riding in a coffin on wheels.
That's actually it's a technical question. It obviously this has been discussed several times. It would be a nice thing to have the possibility to shoot, but it actually poses a lot of problems, because for each vehicle you would have to have the possibility to the animation stuff would be the hardest part. I would guess that and your aiming would be limited from your movement restrictions in the car. Obviously, it's something that's doable, and but it sounds like a small thing, but it's actually a pretty big feature to make that stuff work.
It requires more work than you would.
Yeah, it's one of those things that when you involve all this, when you involve the vehicles and the characters, it's sort of like it gets really quickly complicated. We had a discussion the other day as well about the extra armor on tanks, which would be really cool, like the skirts for the German tanks, and maybe tree logs for the American tanks, and sandbags and shit like that. But just putting in those, it's easy to imagine that you can just add all this shit to a tank, but it poses some other questions. What to do with the other characters that can sit on the tanks, and what do we do with all that stuff? So it's sort of like it raises a few other issues on adding it. Obviously, we are seeing if you can figure out easy ways to do it, but that's just one of those things where it sounds like an easy fix, but it actually has some complications to it. But it's
and every time, a lot of the time when there are these, this could be awesome to put in, then there's also another thing like hit detection. Do we want to focus on getting hit detection in, or do we want to focus on getting extra fluff for tanks in.
But also
because it affects a lot of the same the people that have to work with these things.
And there's also some where it doesn't make sense. Do we want to be able to shoot when you sit in a half track, for example, or in the paratrooper plane, or is that limited? So it's only certain seats that will enable you to shoot. And what do we do with the people who just start shooting all the teammates when they're in a car? So I think there's some questions about what how do we do this the proper way. I'd say that maybe we should just add more guns to the vehicles instead as upgrades.
Oh yeah. Then there's breaking news, or they're not breaking if you're introducing it like that. There's an update from the backend from the guys working with the server, and they're saying that
can we get a breaking banner on the screen?
Yeah. Breaking news. The servers are up as soon as we can get them up. So that's I don't know when that is. But they are really close to opening up the...
I forgot that once the question session is starting...
Oh, is that up here? Okay. But the servers will be up as soon as we can. Everything seems to be working again. They're just checking if everything is responding properly. Hopefully, the live servers will be up very shortly. And if they're up, I will be the first to tell you, and I'll try to interrupt instead of hiding it and then saying, oh, yeah, by the way, something was... breaking news.
Breaking news on the servers.
And then there is another question, which is, but this is again a very technical one. Why does a combat knife and a shovel count as a primary weapon? It's from Gecko 0420. Count as a primary weapon, but pistols won't. And it's if a recon has a pistol equipped as the first weapon, he will still drop the sniper rifle when he dies. But if someone has a knife equipped and they die, then they will drop the knife or the shovel. So it's like if you're a sniper and you have the first key, like over here. The screen is not visible. If my first button, like if I press 1, is a knife, and if my second button is a sniper rifle and a recon, and you die, then it's the knife that drops on the ground, and it's not the sniper rifle.
It's one of those questions
it's a very technical.
It's one of those questions that we have to pass to one of the action coders that does it, because I think there is some strange rules on this because we don't have a primary secondary scheme of equipment. We just have equipment that takes up a certain amount of space, and you can actually put them wherever you want. You have 3 or 4 slots where you can put in your equipment, and that's it. So there's no primary secondary weapon. No. You could, as I've seen, that's also to facilitate that you can actually combine all sorts of crazy combinations with your weapons. But I don't know if we should get that answered for the next time. I could dig into the actual logic on what where the dropped weapon is selected.
Another one is from Tilit, I think, and will the fix of the R75 be implemented again? So at some point there was apparently some code that flipped like the German motorcycle back up.
Yeah. That got removed. I think the German motorcycle is just such a difficult thing to have. We actually considered removing the passenger wagon thingy just in order to have it work properly. It's just something with the physics stuff that's annoying. We are looking into how we can make this better, because it is one of the things that the Germans are pretty annoyed about, that they have this sidecar thing that just keeps flipping. Yeah. Maybe we'll introduce some captured American motorcycles instead.
And then the Americans can get like the captured Germans.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Then there is a question from Osorio Cesar. I think that's probably his name.
Osorio Caesar.
Yeah.
Osorio Caesar.
Osorio Caesar.
Yeah, that's probably correct.
Can't make fun of the.
Can you guys add player quantity in this at tab again? And by this, it's been clarified to me that it's like when you're in the action game and the scoreboard. When you press tab and you see the scoreboard, there's no longer how many players can be on your team. There's only how many players are on your team. So the rest of the question is, it was useful to tell friends if the match still got space to get in.
Yeah. That's
so
true.
it's like if you're 15 versus 17 and you don't know if 15 is the maximum that can be in. So it could show true. Like the that's maximum true. Players that can be in the...
I hadn't thought about that. No. That if people have... it makes sense. There's still room for 2 more players. But it's probably just got...
It's not a fixed number though for our game. Because if you send in 1 guard team, there's only room for 3.
Yeah.
And if you send in 20 teams, there's only room for 18.
Yeah.
This number that would be the
spawn slots are
maximum.
getting generated from the assault teams that are moved in. Obviously, these lines are blurring a little bit now that we have the pooled resources, but they will start to make a lot more sense when we introduce the squad system, because then the squads dictate how much room there is on a squad, and the squad will find a battle that matches its size. Did that answer the question?
I think so.
Awesome. More questions? I should look in the chat.
I think we have to look ourselves now for a while.
Why did the
Do we have any?
chat sit? Give me the chat.
But I heard something about like a lot of people want the STG 44, for example, and as we said earlier, or as you said earlier, like we made the system now so that we can actually introduce these weapons that were incredibly strong at the time, because a lot of players also pointed out in all the like blog posts, there's always someone writing, can't you add the STG 44?
Yeah.
And there's always someone saying, thank God they're saying that, like that weapon had no equal at the time.
Yeah.
So if we add that, it would have to come with some sort of restriction, or like there would have to be some sort of mechanism in the game.
We're probably gonna put a lot of restriction on it in the beginning,
because
just to make sure
it is strong.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's and some of the things that we're considering, obviously the wear, it wears down. It may be being high maintenance. It's going to be an expensive weapon to use. That will limit some of it. Also, we've been thinking about the extended spawn time, something that usually action players don't like to hear, but it's something that could actually limit the use of STGs on the map.
Robotron just wrote to me. His answer is, every time you ask for STG 44, I push the release date 1 day further away.
No.
And but it's to say that we are aware, but like every time it's mentioned, it doesn't
I know. It's made. We have it. It can shoot within the game. It's there. But we're just keeping it to ourselves. Yeah. We have a hard. Well, yeah. Same with the Panther tanks. It's already there as well.
Oh. So another question.
I've been told that I should stop talking about the Panther because.
But it's it's the same as the STG 44. Everyone wants it.
Yeah, but actually, these 2 weapons, the Panther and the STG 44, have a very interesting gadget that we should consider adding as well. The night visions.
The
night vision scopes. Yeah, that would seriously. And then we have to have some proper night levels that are just completely dark.
True night, not all this moonlighting stuff. No. So awesome. There is a question from Ilia. We removed the F5 scoreboard, which was an advanced scoreboard.
Yeah, I think the idea for that is
he would like to see if there's something coming, or he's asking if something's coming instead, because he can't see how he's performing in the battle, and he can't see what ATs are in the battle anymore.
Yeah, I think the current plan for the next upgrade to the current very simple scoreboard is to allow players to customize it a bit.
to add their own columns and what do I want to see in it instead of just presenting this huge matrix in the game.
I'm pretty sure we're making a certain room sweat.
No. It's actually they know this,
Okay.
and it's one of the reasons that they actually just removed the old one was it was a big annoying piece of spaghetti code that nobody wants to touch, and it's like, okay, let's make a simple scoreboard that new players can understand, and then to have more advanced players the ability to maybe customize certain columns on the scoreboard.
Spaghetti code is a thing.
Yeah, so that's why it actually got removed, just to get rid of it and start working on a new setup. Sometimes you have to also, with this small team and limited time, you have to think careful about what you spend your time on, and it's like just removing a certain part of code. We're going to hack this one out now because it's going to, with the new features coming in, it's going to create some maintenance. Sometimes it's a better idea to just let it go and start taking the functionality that it removes, starting to work on how can you put that into the new stuff instead. So we are at some points, sometimes we are sort of like taking one step backwards in order to take two ones forward. And that's just the nature of the way we develop the game.
Yeah, it's not a straight line to make a game. It's a.
But also a game like this where we actually we develop it, and in the market you could say, like we have people playing the game and we change it and we develop it further by reacting to how people play it. So that also means that we've been asked a lot of times that can't you just provide us with a fixed roadmap so we know when new stuff is gonna hit the server. And it's just like we'd love to do that ourselves because we would obviously like to know what we should be working on for the next 4 years, but it's a moving target, so stuff changes and we just need to be prepared to change our plans very quickly.
Pitbull 1973 is actually asking about something I think I snuck it in earlier. Tanks versus planes and stage battles has been removed since Barts went live, and that's coming in the hotfixes in the that we've been talking about today. It's coming there. Tanks and planes are going to be fighting each other again. So we have fixed that. Yes, it will come back.
Check.
Cheers.
You're saying that there's a lot of chaos in the chat right now.
We're happy that you have something to talk about.
Can we get some more questions? This is the Twitch chat is just.
Oh, here it is.
Crazy.
Marv 2.0, he asked, where do I apply for a non-camera shy
programmer job? Go to jobs at retro.dk and fill in an application.
Still down. It's what?
Yes, it's terrible. We have great artists here as well that we like to get on Twitch and show you guys how they make the stuff. But it seems like
So
the camera is just like an evil thing that people don't like to look into. If you can figure out how to make a happy camera that people like, then it would be nice.
But a programmer, it was a programmer job that's not camera shy.
Yeah.
Well, send an unsolicited resume or like application, and then Magic can or might not happen. So what?
There's one. Will we have trench war maps? Why on earth would you want that?
It's because it's a claustrophobic kind of gameplay, I guess.
We one of the problems with doing the tight holes and stuff in the ground is our terrain system doesn't really facilitate narrow and sharp holes in the ground because of the way it changes over distance. Yeah. We did have some what do you call it, some trench warfare in at one point, but it sort of like seems very limited. It's the same thing as the bunkers, where you have like a bunker, but you run into a bunker, and that's a sure way to get killed, because the first thing that a tanker would do when he notices somebody in the bunker is just to start firing high explosive in there, because that's like a cheap kill. We have obviously been talking a lot about the AI control things where you can actually have
like a solo or co-op experience?
No, more like a sentry gun. Deploy an automated machine gun nest that will act as the bunker will pose a threat to the attackers, but no player actually plays it. It's just being a
lot of the weird jobs that people are asking for, like I want to have 5 people in a tank, one guy just sitting on the pedal, one guy like turning the turret while the other fires,
one changing the gas.
Yeah, it's like no.
We actually had that at one point where you had to. That's a long time ago. We had to be 2 guys in order to. You had to switch from the driver in order to drive the tank, and then you had to switch to the turret in order to shoot the tank. It was just too complicated. We did actually had a meeting last week where we discussed the ability to add tank crew to the tanks, much like they have in War Thunder, which is I think is a great mechanic. So that is something that we might think about introducing at some point. Obviously, that would be like an upgrade to your tanks. Add some tank crew that would obviously bump the status of your tank crew guy to being a tank commander. But that's still just on the design drawing board.
There just came a question from Continue. Yeah. Is it true that Panzer IV APCR is weaker than the standard AP?
That's a bug and has been fixed.
And it's also coming in this batch of hotfixes.
Yeah. That's an unfortunate side effect of our little realigning all the ammunition with the guns.
We've been actually holding back a lot of hotfixes because we wanted the server stability work to continue without any interference. Yeah. And then as soon as that's sorted out, we will come with this batch, and in there that will be one of the fixes.
The technical side of this is that before Timoshenko, all our guns had unique ammunition for them, which means that in this instant here, it was actually the Stuk and the Panzer IV used the same cannon, obviously just with a different barrel length, which means they also use the same ammunition. But in our system, they use different ammunition. And we have just aligned all the guns and ammunition types, so all the guns that actually use the same ammunition, both the projectile and the cartridge length, will use the same ammunition. And the gun is what modifies the ammunition's power. And to do that stuff, we had to go through all the guns and ammunition and sort of like remove the ones that were duplicates and realign the multiplier values. And for some freak accident, in this instance, it got switched around. So the Panzer IV ended out having a super weak Panzer grenade. Obviously, that wasn't intended, but that's fixed now.
So the genetic reject, he asks, training missions. Are any more going to be added to practice flying or driving tanks, etc.? I'm pretty sure you might have been asked this before, but it's when you become a pilot or a tanker, it's very uphill.
I think we should. Again, this is one of those things that we also discuss having some more specialized training missions or specialized missions where you can say like we want to have a tank only battle. Stuff like that would be awesome to put in. Hopefully, we'll put it in. We also have our the air lobby we talked about, where the lobby system for pilots would actually just be like a huge team deathmatch flying dogfight thing. And when a mission arises from the campaign map where aircraft is needed, you sort of like break off and fly into the mission. That would also be awesome. So yes, it's something that we are obviously always. That I think I'm repeating myself. We are discussing a lot of different options and a lot of different new features in the game, and just keep requesting them, because that's sort of like it keeps the talk in here in a certain area, and the more we talk about stuff in here, the more likely it is to be the next feature that we actually put into the production. Obviously, everything is about for us
balancing.
Yeah, balancing between what effect does the feature have for the game, and how much effort do we have to put in it? How much money does it cost to make and what does it take away from the current production in order for us to move ahead with a certain feature. So and again, making a game is not as easy as it sounds. It does really require a lot of time and effort.
So we have time for one more question, and then we have to probably end. But I can see that it seems like the live servers are up again. But yeah, so that's new breaking news. I guess live is sort of back up. It seems. I could at least
Go Germany.
Live is open, and there's one last question. The new trailer was awesome by Cycler said.
Yeah.
The new trailer is awesome. Will you add voice sounds as grenade or go 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 go? Like in the trailer.
Oh, we got a lot of questions about this stuff in the trailer, not in the real game. Oh, I would love that stuff to see that stuff in the game. Grenade is awesome, yeah. I cannot promise it, obviously, but obviously I share his enthusiasm of that stuff. Was just cool. I also like the blood splat on the knife kills
all the
stuff.
effects. It was really
nice.
So I think that's it for this time. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for watching this freestyle version of the Devstream, and next week we'll be back with a much more boring episode with the usual suspects. And
if you're interested in finding out more about the game, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. All the nice social media.
Stop! I have to do the. I have to in the end say what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
If you just came in too late. In this episode, we talked a lot about the Timoshenko build and the upgrades or the hotfixes we've been doing, and we also talked about the tweaks we've been doing to the assault teams, speed and how many resources they can carry in, and we also showed some of the fixes the upgrades we've made to the improvements, you could say, to the campaign map that we have ready to be released on the next hotfix or the next fix. Then we talked a little bit about the supply queues and the supply system, why it's there, and then we had a lot of stuff we fixed this, bug fixes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We showed the Axis newspaper, which is
it was great.
Wunderbar.
Keep up the work. It's really fun to read.
Yeah. So I think I've written over most of this stuff. So.
Yeah.
And again,
if you want to see this, it will be on YouTube shortly, like this Devstream. And we hope you tune in next week for
some more awesome stuff. No, actually, I think maybe it's going to be us again. I think.
No, next week I'm not going to be.
Maybe it's going to be me and some other guy. Gargamel's on holiday next week, I think.
Yeah, and I'm on holiday too.
And you're on holiday too. Wow. Yes, we're gonna come up with some funky stuff for the next.
It's gonna be great, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for
show the
tuning in.
STG-44.
Bye.
You are gonna show.
Bye. See you. Cut. That was.